Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Craig Malkin, a clinical psychologist and lecturer for Harvard Medical School. I'm also the author of Rethinking Narcissism, which is devoted to helping you understand and cope with narcissism in all its forms, in all your relationships. Today, I want to talk about the differences between narcissism, psychopathy, and borderline personality disorder. This actually came up in a conversation in my comments and inspired by a conversation I had with somebody I help. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell so you can see the videos when they come in. And I welcome comments. They lead to videos like this. The first place I would start is just being very clear about what narcissism is. And if you have followed my work at all and read my books, you know that I view narcissism centrally as a drive to feel special, exceptional, or unique. The core preoccupation of somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder, therefore, is a need to self-enhance. That is to stand out from the other nearly 8 billion people on the planet in some way, either positively in the case of extroverted or grandiose narcissists who fancy themselves the smartest, most attractive, most famous, wealthiest, you name it, all the big stuff on the planet, or more negatively in the case of somebody who has vulnerable or covert or introverted narcissism, as I call it, who needs to feel like they are special or unique compared to others because of their pain, because of their suffering, because they are uglier, whatever the metric is, even if it's negative, more than other people. And no, regardless of what kind of narcissism we're talking about, that is the central preoccupation. All other considerations take a back seat to where somebody with extreme narcissism stands in relation to others. The core preoccupation, in contrast, for somebody who has psychopathy, and really the core organizing principle of the character, is something called omnipotent control. Omnipotent control is the illusion that we have power and control over experience, relationships, even the world. When people are psychotic enough, they have a psychotic investment in the idea of omnipotent control. But the main driving force of somebody with psychopathy is to feel more powerful than you in the relationship or others, whoever they're interacting with, because their experience, both because of their family of origin issues and maybe even genetics and how it tips them in their temperament towards a certain personality, their main concern is that if they are not in control and if they are not in charge, then they are small and powerless and nothing. You can think of it as a mindset of the way relationships work is they're powerful and powerless, and that's it. There's no other configuration. And for a psychopath, they know which one they want to be. You can hear that even though there is overlap between narcissism and psychopathy, and I'll get in a minute, there is overlap, of course, in borderline personality disorder too. Even though there is overlap, the primary focus is different for somebody who is extremely narcissistic, unless they also have psychopathy. What they are going to be motivated to do when they are sad or scared, instead of turning to people for connection and support, is to feel special in some way. When somebody is driven by psychopathy, if they're sad, scared, if they can even be in touch with those feelings, so they're often extremely muted in somebody with psychopathy, they're going to turn to feeling powerful in some way, because the alternative is, if they have those other more vulnerable feeling, they are small and powerless. Not in the same sense that happens with somebody with their narcissistic vulnerability, that they are valueless. They are worthless. In psychopathy, it's literally the sense that they could be completely destroyed, taken over, controlled in ways that they wish not to be. The third topic I wanted to address, borderline personality disorder, you want to think about the organizing principle there being How safe am I being close and how safe am I being far away? This is often thought of as separation individuation. For people with borderline personality disorder, their experience has often been, for example, the very person they needed to keep them safe when they were little and even throughout their life is also somebody who is a potential abuser or perpetrator. And this creates a problem, a core conflict, where on the one hand, somebody with borderline personality disorder wants to feel safe wandering off into the world, doing their own thing, that is, being independent, having boundaries. And then the other, they feel unsafe as soon as they try to seek out that independence, both because they weren't protected enough to feel like they could go out and do those things, and often they were punished for seeking autonomy. Now, this isn't the defining feature of borderline personality disorder. It is the core driving conflict. You notice in each of these, they're very different, very different. Self-enhancement, or the drive to feel special for somebody who's extremely narcissistic. Power over others, or omnipotent control, for somebody who is psychopathic. And you can see that that leads to other problems. The mindset, if I didn't say this earlier, and if I did, I'm just repeating myself, the mindset for somebody who is so psychopathic that they also are blended with that Frankenstein's monster presentation of character that I talked about previously, malignant narcissism. If they are in that extreme end, then they often are of the mindset, I am everything and have everything, and you are nothing and have nothing. And they have to actually create that experience for themselves. All about power, all about control, which isn't necessarily the concern of somebody who's extremely narcissistic, again, unless they have that additional trait of psychopathy. These things can overlap, but they're not always together. Similarly, somebody who has borderline personality disorder may or may not be narcissistic. And their core preoccupation is, am I safe being close, or is it dangerous? And should I pull away? Different presentations I should talk about too. What does this look like? So with somebody who's extremely narcissistic, it might be early on in the relationship, things seem to be going fine, more or less. I mean, you often will see red flags and get better at that, especially with somebody who's extremely narcissistic. But as their normal insecurities about, like, how am I going to be in this relationship? Is this person going to actually stick around? Do they care about me? As those go up, what happens is you see an increase in entitlement, and in the more extroverted type, they might become more aloof. They might leave you feeling like they've got other interests on the side. These are all different ways of distancing and propping up the sense of I am special and exceptional in some way. As you get close to somebody who is psychopathic, if you have the misfortune of landing in a relationship with someone like that, you will start to see fairly early on the positioning for who is in the powerful role, who is in charge, who is in control. Again, this can happen with somebody who's narcissistic, but they're trying to do it in order to feel special, like I'm the smartest or I'm the most exceptional. For somebody who's psychopathic, it might be that, say, you're trying to figure out what to do for the evening. And as you're working that out, you find that they are sending you all kinds of information about a place that you've already said that you didn't want to go, or about an experience that you really weren't all that interested in. And what's happening in there is the reason they've ignored it, again, isn't so much about feeling special, it's about who's in charge. It's about who gets to call the shots. And they're defending against the feeling that you might actually have influence on them and impact on what happens. In contrast, if you're in a relationship with somebody who might have borderline personality disorder, what you see isn't going to involve necessarily anything like entitlement or having to be in charge. What you see is fear. What you see is, this is somebody, say you have a wonderful night together and you felt all kinds of sparks and you felt closeness and you laughed and you really enjoyed the evening. And then the next day, they're bristly, They seem a little bit fearful about reconnecting, maybe a lot fearful, like you may even hear hesitancy in their voice. Their core conflict has been triggered. That is, on the one hand, they want to view you as benevolent and maybe even potentially a caretaker. This is another form that it takes. That is, somebody who actually will care about them. And on the other, their experience is if they are open to that kind of vulnerability, then they might be in the hands of a potential perpetrator. This is what happened to them repeatedly in their own early experiences. So then you see more of this reactivity. Again, it might be fear. It might be an increase in fragility, like feeling particularly sad over an interaction where you didn't agree on things, but it doesn't register for you as something catastrophic, but it appears to be for them. These are some of the typical presentations. So I hope that's helpful. As you can hear, there might be overlap, and maybe I'll get into a video about that too. But they are very different central concerns. If you like the video, please give it a big thumbs up. Please leave comments so I can build on the conversation, and I look forward to sharing it with you more. Thanks.